All right. I think, yeah, we're good. Okay, so it is 5:36 in the morning. I'm here in AZ at my friend's house while I'm on the road and doing the films. And my buddy here is a buddy from the third grade. I mean, I've known this guy for over 40 years. And so we were watching YouTube last night out in the living room, and we were commenting on, I forgot what it was. We were trying to find a password for something, and so his sister had a password for one of his devices, and it was like phobic octopus and a bunch of numbers and characters, and we were laughing. I'm like, phobic octopus. And so what happened was I have Flotsam TV here on YouTube, and I wanted to have like a side valve, like a blow pipe, blow something channel. What am I trying to say? Like a way to just let off steam, private, or just like a daily vlog, right? Or whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, I just called it phobic octopus. I don't think that anyone's following me. I don't give a fuck. But so anyway, I wanted to just kind of come on here and just communicate and warm up and just do what I was doing on the old channel, only for fewer people if that's possible, and just to hang loose and have fun. So, okay, coffee going down. Oh yeah. What else? So yeah, I'm on the road, and not a whole lot is going on right now. I'm speaking quietly because my buddy's sleeping, and also I really feel like being in a quiet room again. It's nothing like a booth, which my booth's in storage. So 2,000 miles away, that whole plan took a shit on me, but rather I dropped the ball. But what else is new? But the other thing is that I really found this this love, this passion for documentary style shooting, like the North Texas video I did for Flotsam TV really kind of kicked awake this like sleeping ogre, that had been lying inside of me, just dormant and wasted or hungover, whatever you want to call it. But I found this thing I really, really like doing. And my editor said it's really good for you because it kind of marries everything. I don't like that analogy, whatever. It's only because I heard some actor one time, that kooky curly-haired kid, what's his name, Jesse something, and he was talking about he wrote a book or a story to read in a studio, and he goes, I like it because it kind of marries everything I like to do into one thing, performing and creating. And I felt slightly ill when I heard that, but he didn't probably ever see that. So he goes, I like the way that it kind of marries everything you like to do. Writing, and I love taking photos, especially photography. I call it photography. But I have a nice camera, like a Nikon, that I just haven't learned how to use all the shutters and the shutter speeds or whatever, and the settings, and the few photos I have taken with it, I think I've gotten lucky and I got a really great shot of the sunset over Alki Beach in Seattle. It was a beautiful shot. But I got lucky. It was my first photo taken with a real camera. But I think I have one of the photographers I've met said you have a natural eye for your thirds. And so I had to go into what that meant. I mean, it's self-explanatory, but I still want to know if I was correct, and luckily I was. Anyway, so with this channel, what I'm going to try to do is not worry about the in-between noise, like the loud and like whistly inhales that we do, or even some of the pops or clicks, or this is more of my channel to let it all hang out. And luckily, no one's going to really see these. I will listen to these in my car when I drive just to hear room for correction within the narrative. As you get into hearing your own voice, which took me almost 3 years now to really accept, this is how I sound. And it used to be like, whenever I heard my own voice, or I'm sure a lot of people are like this, where you you hear yourself and you go, and I'm just now comfortable with the way I sound. And so now that that's over, now that I got over that, now listening for, you should pause here, you should take your time here, you always speed up on this word, you always make these 2 words or 3 words sound like 1 word. And you don't want to do that. 1 word out of 4 words is bad narration, unless it's a character, unless it's an accent, then it's good. So, it's been a really strange 3 months. My plan was to leave AZ and get a place back in Tennessee, and I didn't really quite have the resources to do that. I mean, I did, but it would have been really, I would have had to really hit the ground running, which I don't mind doing. But I think it was more like, once I got there, there was just something pushing me back. Like something told me, don't get a place here. It's so green, it's beautiful, you missed it. But there's just something very kind of depressing about being single and living in that part of the country. I don't know. I'm not that the options, I'm not looking for marriage or anything, but I mean, there's just something, there's some fun missing. I will say that. That's a good way to put it. There's some fun missing, not just physically, but there's a certain speed and mischief and vastness and ease and faster mentality out west that is lacking the southern charm and the yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir that I like. I love that out there. I love the humility, the humbleness, I should say, of the South. I really do. But it's like anything else, it's too much of, you don't want you don't want too much chocolate in the chocolate. You know what I mean? So I figured that, well, I don't know if I want to stay here. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just know that I felt good about getting all my stuff in one spot and just roaming. And then I did that short film in Texas, and I was like, wait a minute, this is fucking beautiful, because it marries everything I want to do. And it also gave me a break from worrying about being a voice actor, a voiceover artist, which I've never really even gone for a gig doing that. I just I just love microphones and recording, and it's an expensive hobby, but at this point, while I'm kind of like crossing over into the professionalism of it regarding performance and regarding getting away from being a gearhead and just having fun with it, meaning bringing out the voice of getting out of your own way and bringing out the voice of whatever you're creating, of having fun with it. And even though that's hopefully in my cards, if I choose to pursue a narration gig, side hustle, full-time hustle, I'd love to read for Audible, more on Audible full-time when I get my booth back. But there was something about shooting, and there was something about seeing the images of Like when you have something in your mind, like one of my favorite things about a few people I know are the ones who have the ability to draw, the ability to see something in their mind, and then they just make it happen. It just becomes real on the page, and it's a beautiful, brutal, beautiful. The way they and a visual artist can create something from nothing. You know, I remember I watched Bad Boys with Sean Penn, back in the young greasy Sean Penn. I think it was one of his first films. I'm not a huge fan. No, once, this could be a whole separate video, but once an actor gets political, like the whole De Niro thing over Trump, I mean, it's bad enough that you got all these problems anyway going on, let alone some billionaire telling the public how to cast their vote when they have no. Gervais said it best. I'm not going to even go into this, but I was watching Bad Boys with Sean Penn, and who was that other actor? Esai Morales, and a smattering of others. I think Clancy, what's his name? The guy from been in a bunch of movies, like Clancy Brown or something. The really good actor. He was in. Most recently, Buster Scruggs, and he was a guard in Shawshank. Okay. Anyway, a little groggy today, and anyway, Sean Penn was in there, and it was this. I think it was his character actually that drew. They were in class. They were teenagers. And it was a prison for bad boys, and I forgot. I think Sean Penn was like a burglar, and anyway, Paco Moreno was his enemy. I just love that. I love that movie. I saw it when I was really young, as an early '80s movie, and I remember they were in prison, and the teacher was talking to the class, and he goes, art, the definition of art is the creation of something beautiful from nothing. And he was really impressed with his drawing this guy drew, and it was this on the bottom of his assignment, it was like a prison fence with a barbed wire and these birds flying over it into the sunset. It was it's a pencil drawing, and the whole class started laughing. But I was like, I think it was 11, 12, 13 when that came out. When did that come out? In the early 80s. But I watched that, and that never left my psyche when he goes, art is the creation of something beautiful from nothing. And I thought that was so cool, and I still do. Anyway, 1 second. Water. Okay, so ooh, there we go. I don't like straws, but I sleep with this big thing of water, and because I'm paranoid I'm going to spill it, so I keep that thing just the way it is. Where was I? Oh yeah, back to that. So when I did the first film, when I shot that little 4 minute and 50-second long thing I did, I really fell in love with that whole thing, how do I put it? I don't know, you hear people say process, craft, and all that. I don't know about any, I just know that I just loved the feeling of being able to remember something, shoot it, write again, that's huge, and but also to put it all together in one thing. And the support I got was really, it wouldn't have made or broken it, but it was nice to have people I admire who said, hey, I like this, you should do this again. But it's not free. So I thought to myself, what do I do? a few things have cropped up lately, and so I figured my buddy here in AZ, he's without really talking about him, my best friend from grade school. I'll just say a couple of marriages and a couple of houses later, we're both the same age. And we both kind of started laughing because we found ourselves in almost the same situation, being single, trying to figure out what's next, and so it made sense. Hey man, cruise here and just take over this room and do your things, travel, go, just rent's really cheap and cut me a break. And I said, okay, I will, because what really sealed the deal for me was, besides missing my buddy, which it's totally natural to miss your best friend after, out in the wind. And I was also staying with another best friend. Well, I guess I'll say my buddy here is my best friend, but then my friend in New Orleans is also, it's weird to be this old going, oh, my best friend, but I had two good friends I was lucky to have in this weird thing I was doing. But I think that line from No Country for Old Men comes to mind when Sugar has the gun on Carson, and he's like, if the rule you followed brought you to here, no, let me ask you something. If the rule you followed led you to this, of what use was the rule? And I thought that was so fucking true. And, however, I just fucking massacred that beautiful moment in film. But, what got to me though was, I was thinking about that, and I'm thinking to myself, all these mistakes you made, you had this much money, and you did this, you had a U-Haul, you did this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this. But what occurred to me was the rule that I followed, right? I don't even mind riffing off McCarthy because he's fucking McCarthy, but the rule that I followed led me to understand what I really want to do, at least creatively, maybe not even for a living. Maybe one day if I can incorporate Flotsam into, I already have a bunch of cool soft goods ideas for that company, but really it's just a side valve, but it's essential to me. And so what I figured out was, I thought maybe this is just rationalizing loss. Maybe it's just something brand new that tickles my fucking pickle, or maybe not. Maybe I really feel like this is something I want to pursue. And so much so that one of my peers, one of my gearhead VO nerd buddies, who is a film dialogue guy, been in the industry for like 30 years, he sent me a link to his Epidemic sound. Actually, he watched my the short I sent him. Hey, what do you think? Go easy. It's my first time. I'm not fucking, this is a man bites dog. This is an Amelia. This is like whatever the fucking French movie was. This is just an iPhone and me babbling, but he liked it, and he said, hey man, here's what I would do if I were you. Gave me a ton of pro tips, right? And then sent me a link to his to get stereo fields of traffic and ambient sounds, pianos. I thought, okay, I'm going to try that. But another thing is this. I really don't want to always just do something based upon my my past or what's happened. Well, same thing. Zoolander moment. But I want to do something that's caustic and beautiful. And I want to also kind of go into the history of places, but I want to do it kind of like if you ever watched, was it Parts Unknown with Bourdain? What a fucking waste. You know what I mean? What a waste of talent, to just take yourself out. But I understand. I do understand that. So, but the best parts for me were not the actresses and the locale, or the local food or watching this go down. It was the writing. The guy could write, and he would make points. He would make cultural observations, and sometimes they were just subtle, or like they would only button down a sentence, but you could tell he had his chops. He had his bearings about him, and he knew how to write. He wrote for Christ's sakes. He was a writer, and so but that and when you see like one of my friends is into like the paranormal, and and I'll watch some of that media, and I'll just to get my mind around it. And I like the way they go. Sometimes they'll go from town to town, and like other shows too, like other things you see on travel television, or any kind of like Discovery, whatever. But I just love those drone shots and the history of the town. I think it would be so cool to get to a point to where I could do that, and only write fiction, I guess, or maybe not even fiction, but in my mind, a beautiful way to tell a story, and also funny. Like Werner Herzog, that guy, his death row documentaries. I mean, he's really heavy, but it's really well. Like Grizzly Man, that was so well done. It was a comedy without him knowing he was making a comedy. It really was. You know what I mean? Dumb son of a bitch. Not Herzog, the Treadwell, whatever his name was. I wonder if the bears just didn't eat him because they thought he was fucking psychotic for the first, however many years he. Wow. And that poor girl, Jesus, what he took up there. But anyway, so I thought that why not try something like that? Have fun, dude. Do something, explore what you love to do. When I was when I traveled Europe, I'll put that in this video. At the end of this video, I took a bunch of phone shots of Europe, and iTunes put it to like SATO by Ozzy. Now I find peace of mind. What a great song. I'll put that at the very end of this. I'll close the video with it. But since that moment, or even before that, I had this idea of how much I loved to take photos. And I think that the only reason why I had a smartphone, I didn't get a smartphone until like 2011. I think that it was because of the iPhone's camera. And I know I hear Android's better and blah, 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 but I just like Apple. I'm used to it. I'm old. And to me, it just has a certain ease of use and a certain kind of velour to it. There's a class, not like a class like the whole green bubble, blue bubble joke. I mean, that's funny though. It's kind of true actually, but I like the overall ease. And then I went to Mac for the creative stuff, and I really liked the fact that it's a big iPhone, like an iPad. So I still prefer Microsoft Word to write. I wrote North Texas in Pages. Yeah, it's called Pages in Mac. So I should probably re-up my Word subscription. I really should. But getting out of all this, I wanted to talk a little bit about my first book, and it's called March of Time and Skin. And I've read this before on the channel, my old channel, but I really didn't ever stop and go into a lot of the things about it. So chapter 1, which I'm not going to read because it's long and I don't feel like doing accents. I don't feel like going into like the old man's character, Jeffrey. I don't want to go into all that, or the uncle's manic, sycophantic relationship with his dad and his mom, or the old hag who's always coughing up phlegm balls. Kind of how I feel this morning. Just ugh. Hold on. But I wrote this, and it's so funny too, because when this book dropped and I toured it, the people who read that were like, "Oh, is that real? Did that happen?" And you don't want to always reveal everything, but a lot of it, I mean, I'll put it to you this way: it's very well researched, right? And all the stuff that happened when I was a teenager, like my mom dying suddenly, and getting on the road and working, and all that stuff, to me was like, back then I didn't think about, oh, this is going to be so traumatic. I thought, well, the same thing happened to a lot of people today. And I didn't really have time to, people read that and they talk to me at this age and they're like, oh, you poor thing. You didn't have a childhood, or you didn't have a proper adolescence, and blah, blah, blah. But I never stopped to think about that. I never stopped and felt sympathy for myself, or reflected about, this guy has this, I don't have this, I just figured it was just my road to take, my fucking, whatever you want to call it, my path, it was my path to joy, but it wasn't. It was fucking horrible looking back on it. But at the same time, was it though? Was it? And what is really horrible? What is really horrible about life in America? Really? I mean, I know we have it tough, some of us more than others. There's some division, there's some, there's a lot of evil shit. But compared to those fuckers, compared to like India, compared to like Africa, compared to so many in the Middle East, regarding these women shaving their heads. I can go over there sometime. Yeah. You'll be dying to fucking come back over here and deal with your inequality, which I'm not going to get into all that. Fuck that. But anyway, it just happened, and I just took it, and I kept going, and I didn't stop to. I was sad a few nights. I remember one night I was really young, driving through California. I had this little Nissan. It looked like a fucking missile. It was like a 200 SX. It was like oxidized purplish, and just I kind of miss that car sometimes. And I was driving, and I was listening to one of my cassette tapes, and Fade to Black came on by Metallica, and I was driving. I was really tired, and I was driving from a little town in central California going north where I was staying, and I was listening to Fade to Black, and I thought about my mom, and I started bawling. And it was, those times for me are so rare that I can remember them, each one. And that was one of them. So, I mean, there was, of course, you lose your parents, or you lose your mom. Well, essentially, I mean, actually, yeah, my parents, because my dad was a dick after that. But I mean, I never thought it would hinder me. I just went a different way, And luckily, that road, like where I'm sitting now, led me around a lot of interesting winds and curves and lessons, and also some really bad habits, socially and responsibly. But how do I put it? And by socially, I don't mean behavioral. I mean like owning a house, which I've never done, or getting married and having children, which I've never done. Not trusting people, Also, a lot of that did leak in. My last girlfriend said, "Hey, man, you have so many walls up and you're so guarded." And I just don't see it that way. I just don't like bullshit. I don't like lies. And so, who does? I guess except for, people who do that. But anyway, but this is a part of the book where when I was 19, I found out I was adopted at birth through a crazy, one crazy day and night in Nevada. And so, the character runs into his crazy uncle at the DMV. He just traded his Honda Civic or whatever, a little hatchback, 4-speed, for a van. He wanted to write in his journals and just travel the country. He does. But before that, he was forced to stay on the couch of his really mentally ill grandparents. They were fucking crazy. Shit house fucking rats. Crazy people. The uncle included. So he endures the story, talks to his sister. He finds out, I found out I had a sister through the whole thing. And when you write about your life, you have to choose. You have to first assume that not everybody is as interested in your life as you are. And I think that enough has happened in the last, 54 years of life for me to pick and choose what I think will probably be the right landmarks in a story. And this one, so what happened was I got up and I went in town to get insurance for my car, my van. And when I came back, it was bright, I was tired, and this guy came out of the house, and he was like really well dressed, and he was my other uncle, older one, who lived there. And long story quicker, I'd never seen my biological mother, right? And they found her in a park in Vegas. She was an addict, just fucked up, toothless, homeless, heroin addict. And the backstory is when she came to my parents' house, what happened, my dad, her brother, he couldn't have kids. So he was married to his wife, and she came to town. They took care of her, and she shot me out. They kept me, and then she was going to abort me and said I was the devil's child or an alien child or something. And they took her in. She was fucking crazy. And I don't think that she stopped using while I was in the womb, but I don't think there's anything, I don't think there were any negative side effects except for I did die twice as a kid. I had fever convulsions and I would just die twice. I died. And the old man brought me back, and I was one. And in the best shape of my life. No, that's a joke. And so the onward and onward, the years go forward. And so I found myself 19. My dad's, and he's also at this point, was never before, but he's a junkie on the streets of West Phoenix. My mom's in the ground, and I'm just on my own, right? And so when I walked into this house and saw her, as where chapter 2 picks up for the character, and a couple of things about this. I would never, the character, I'll get to that in a minute, but I'll just read this. It's not going to be a long read. I'm having fun just talking to the one or two people who might see this. But this is chapter 2 of March of Time and Skin. And it takes place in a cul-de-sac in Nevada. I call them culture sacks. But chapter 2. The old man was at the table smoking. She was sitting at the corner chair of the table across from him. She glanced at me and took a slurp from her cup. She smoked with her legs crossed. It was my forehead, my facial structure, my features, the same shape and curves of my feet and body. There was my nose. She wore a long bed shirt and men's socks pulled over her calves. Her hair was scraggly. She had no teeth. I looked at her skull, my hairline. Walt looked at me. I sat on the couch. He told me he'd picked her up downtown in a park. The old man looked at his daughter and pointed to me. "Allison, that's your son sitting right over there." She glanced at me again and laughed bitterly. The old man frowned at her. "Don't you even want to say hello to your own son?" She had a hoarse grumble. "Fuck him. I'm no good at this mothering shit." She was right, but I didn't care. I walked up to her, the same way a man would approach another man cut in half by a train, another man dying whom he didn't want to touch or know, but a man he wanted to look upon in order to check himself, to know he still had life. She looked up at me. There was nothing familiar outside of our blood. She gave me an irritated grunt. "Okay, here, come here." She pulled me down and kissed me on the cheek. She stank, a body odor so foul it was almost tropical. She told me she'd see me in paradise someday. I stood up. I couldn't stop looking at her while she grew hostile. She asked me what I wanted from her. I drew back and spat in her face. The old man screamed. She wiped it off and drank her coffee. I spat in her hair. She jumped up and ran out the back door, behind where the old man sat and would sit for the rest of his days. Walt ran after her. The old man yelled at me, "You son of a bitch, that is no way to treat your mother." I didn't really spit in her hair, that was for effect. I would never do that. But I wanted to. I picked up the coffee pot and cocked it back. I aimed for his head. He ducked, and it flew out the open door behind him. Walt tackled her in the yard. The old man begged me to leave. Not a sound came from Art's room. I walked out of the nightmare and stepped into the Dodge. It started right up. On the passenger seat was a screwdriver where I'd left it to find the registration forms for the cop. I put it in the glove box. As I drove out, I could see Walt holding her on the yellow grass in the rear view. I could tell any preacher exactly where hell was. Give him the physical address. Did I say preacher or did I W that R? Elmer Fudd? No. Congested, so. I could tell any preacher exactly where hell was. Give him the physical address. Which is true. That place was pure hell. Looking back, it was funny. The old lady came out of her house when I first got there, and I was across the street, and she was like, "Who the hell are you? Are you Satan?" And I just go, "Yes." And she screamed and slammed the door. Good neighborhood. Anyway, I drove south out of state and blah, blah, blah. So, thinking about something in here kick something loose, a memory, which will go into the outro of this video. When I was like 25, I just worked a fishing boat job in Alaska, and we came back to land. I got a place in Seattle, and I had this short story book. And I forget how I obtained that book. Someone gave it to me to read. Like, you'll like this guy. But I did. I sure did. It was Tom Jones, Thom Jones, and it was The Pugilist Arrest. And it was the cover of the book was the boxer arrest, a statue, and it was made in honor of Theogenes, the greatest boxer of all times. Like something like over 1,500 maybe fights he had, and back then they were strapped to flat rocks with just like leather, like knuckle guards, and the fight was to the death. They faced each other, and the guy won he killed over 1,000 men, but he's sitting there like stooped over on this rock, and he's looking this way, and his ear's all cauliflower, and he's just and I remember Jones has said in the book, the title piece is called The Pugilist Arrest, and won him like the O. Henry Award. Really fucking great story. And I remember he's like, if you're ever in Rome, go to this museum and see the statue. It's amazing. And I remember when I was 25, I was like, man, I really want to see that now. And fast forward to age 45, or was it 46? 46? No, 45. I was in Europe, and I was walking into that museum, and I saw that statue. And it was smaller than I thought it would be, but so was everything regarding art over there. Namely the Sistine Chapel and Adam touching his creator. It was like a rug size, but it didn't change the emotion. I got choked up, and I thought, after all the hard blows in life you take, in relation to your world, and someone tells you you're never going to make it, and I got a lot of that from the fucking factories and labor sites I worked, these bitter fucks, you're not going to make it, you're going to blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I feel like they were right, but back then I had gotten a business class round-trip ticket to Europe, and I got to see something I never thought I'd ever see in the flesh, or in person, I should say. And I did it because of my silly-ass dream of writing, of creating. And so walking off that plane and driving back home to my dogs and opening that fucking door and pouring a shot of scotch and looking out that fucking window at a Roadrunner. I was in New Mexico at the time, and thinking to myself, you know what? You're all right. You're all right. So, all right. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you in the new video. And as always, take good care.